Your father worked 30 years at the plant, came home every Friday with a paycheck, retired at 55 with a gold watch and a pension guaranteed income for life. Never worried about the stock market. Never stressed about retirement accounts, just worked his shift, collected his pension check, and lived his last 20 years with dignity. You worked 40 years, did everything right. Saved in your 401k like they told you. Watched it grow, then watched it crash in 2000. Built it back up, then watched it crash again in 2008. You're 67 years old, and you're still working. Not because you love your job, not because you're bored at home, but because you can't afford to retire. Your father retired at 55 with a pension. You're 67 and still working. What the hell happened? I'll tell you exactly what happened in the 1980s. While you were busy working and raising kids and living your life, American corporations pulled off the biggest theft in history. They took away your pension. They promised you something better, more freedom, more control, more opportunity. They called it a 401k, and it was a lie, not a little lie. Not an exaggeration. A deliberate, calculated lie designed to transfer trillions of dollars of retirement security from you to them. Your father's generation had a promise. Work hard. We'll take care of you in retirement. Your generation got a different deal. Work hard. Take all the risk yourself. Watch the stock market. Pray it doesn't crash right before you retire. And if you end up broke at 75, that's your problem. Show modern elderly working in service jobs this isn't about bad luck. This isn't about poor planning. This isn't about avocado toast or any generational nonsense. This is about the day American corporations decided they didn't want to keep their promise anymore, and how they convince you to accept it. By the end of this video, you'll understand when exactly your pension disappeared, who made the decision and why, how much money corporations saved by screwing you, why your 401k was never meant to be your primary retirement, and why you're working at 67. While your father retired at 55, this is your story. This is what they did to you. And this is why you have every right to be angry. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about what you lost. Because most people under 50 have never even seen a real pension. They don't know what was stolen because they never had it. But you remember, after World War II, American corporations made a deal with their workers. It was simple. Work for us for 30 years, and we'll pay you a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. Not maybe. Not if the market does well. Not if you pick the right funds. Guaranteed for life. It was called a defined benefit pension. You knew exactly what you'd get. Your employer made a promise. When you retire, you'll get 60% of your final salary every month until you die. And if you die first, your spouse keeps getting it. The company took the investment risk. The company hired actuaries to calculate costs. The company funded it every year. All you had to do was show up and do your job, and it worked. This wasn't charity. This was part of the social contract of post-war America. Corporations were making record profits. The economy was booming. Workers through unions had negotiating power, and companies understood something important. A stable, loyal workforce was worth the cost of pensions. General Motors, General Electric, AT&T, Ford, U.S. Steel, every major corporation offered pensions. It wasn't unusual. It was standard. Your father worked at the plant, or the phone company, or the railroad. He put in his 30 years. He got his pension. Let me give you a real example. Your father, let's say he retired in 1975. Final salary, $15,000 a year pension, $9,000 a year, 60% of final salary. Plus Social Security, $3,600 a year total retirement income, $12,600 a year. That was 84% of his working income. He could live on that comfortably. He didn't worry about stock market crashes, mutual fund fees, asset allocation, sequence of returns, risk, running out of money. The check came every month until he died. Guaranteed. That was the promise. That was what American workers earned through decades of labor. And then in the 1980s, it disappeared. So what changed? Why did pensions disappear? The answer is simple. Corporations realized they could save billions by breaking the promise. And in the 1980s, the political and legal environment made it possible. Ronald Reagan became president in 1981. His administration was aggressively pro-business. Unions were under attack. Corporate power was rising. And corporations saw an opportunity. Pensions were expensive, very expensive. Companies had to put aside money every year to fund future benefits. It was a liability on the balance sheet. It reduced profits. And then someone discovered a loophole. Here's something most people don't know. The 401k was never intended to replace pensions. It was a tax loophole for executives. In 1978, Congress passed a law with a boring provision called Section 401k of the tax code. It allowed high-paid employees to defer compensation and avoid taxes. It was meant for executives making six figures who wanted to shelter more income from taxes. Then a benefits consultant named Ted Benna had an idea. What if companies used this provision to offer a retirement savings plan to all employees? Companies could contribute a little money, employees could contribute some of their own. And it would be a nice extra benefit alongside the pension. That was 1981. By 1985, corporations realized something. If we can convince workers to accept 401ks instead of pensions, we can save a fortune. And that's exactly what they did. It started at a few companies, then dozens, then hundreds. The pattern was always the same. Step 1. Freeze the pension due to changing economic conditions. To remain competitive, for the long-term health of the company, your pension was frozen. No new benefits after a certain date. Step 2. Offer the 401k. We're giving you more control, more flexibility. You can choose your own investments. Part of you can take it with you if you change jobs. Step 3. Shift the risk. They stopped contributing to the pension, started contributing to your 401k. Much less if the market crashed. Your problem, not theirs. If you picked bad funds, your fault. If you didn't save enough, should have planned better. Let me be crystal clear about what happened here. Corporations took a promise guaranteed income for life and replaced it with a gamble. They shifted all the investment risk from themselves to you, and they convinced you it was a good deal. Here's what corporations saved: a traditional pension for a worker retiring at 55, with $40,000 final salary, company obligation, about $500,000 in present value guaranteed for 20-30 years, plus survivor benefits of 401k for the same worker, company contribution, 3 to 6% match during working years. Total cost to company, maybe $100,000 over 30 years, all risk shifted to employee. No guarantee of anything. Corporations saved 80% on retirement costs, 80%. Multiply that across millions of workers, and you're talking about trillions of dollars shifted from workers to corporate profits. You never voted on this. You were never asked. Corporate boards and executives made this decision in closed-door meetings. They hired consultants who showed them the savings. They got legal approval. They crafted the messaging. And then they told you it was for your benefit. And here's the kicker. While they were eliminating your pension, corporate executives were increasing their own. Executive pensions, deferred compensation, golden parachutes, all of that got bigger. This wasn't about companies being unable to afford pensions. It was about maximizing executive wealth and shareholder returns at your expense. Let's talk about how they sold this to you, because the marketing was brilliant, evil, but brilliant. Line number 1, you'll have more control. They told you, with a 401k, you control your investments. You make the decisions. Sounds good, right? Freedom, control, American values. But here's what they didn't tell you. Most people are not investment experts. You're a teacher, a machinist, a nurse, an engineer. You know your job. You don't have a finance degree. They gave you 20 mutual fund options and said, pick wisely. How were you supposed to know which funds would do well? About expense ratios, asset allocation, rebalancing. You know what your father had to know about investing for his pension? Nothing. The company handled it. That was their job. Now it's your job, and if you mess it up, that's your fault. Line number 2, it's more flexible and portable. They said, you can take your 401k with you if you change jobs. No more being tied to one employer. Technically true, but here's the reality. Most people change jobs 10 to 12 times in their career. Every move is a chance to make mistakes. Roll it into an IRA with high fees. Cash it out and pay penalties. Lose track of old accounts. Many people have 5 to 6 old 401ks scattered around. Others cashed out during tough times and paid huge penalties. Your father's pension was automatic. It was there waiting for him at 55, no matter what happened. Your 401k requires constant management across decades and multiple employers. How many actually did that perfectly? Line number 3, you'll probably end up with more money. This was the big one. They showed you projections. If you save 10% and we match 3%, and the market returns 8% annually for 30 years, you'll have $750,000. Sounds amazing, right? Way more than your father had. But they didn't show you the other side. What if the market crashes when you're 64? What if wages stagnate and you can't save 10%? What if you need the money during a medical emergency? What if you panic and sell during a crash? What if mutual fund fees eat 2% of your returns every year? The real results now. 40 years later, how did the 401k experiment work out? The median 401k balance for Americans aged 65 plus, $64,000. That's the median. Half have less than that. You know what $64,000 generates in annual income? About $2,560 per year. That's $213 per month. Your father's pension, $1,500, $2,000 per month for life. Guaranteed. You have to $113 per month until it runs out. YIT failed. The 401k failed for most Americans because asterisk people couldn't afford to save enough. Asterisk company matches got smaller. Asterisk the market crashed twice, 2000 and 2008. Asterisk fees ate returns. Asterisk people made mistakes. Asterisk no longevity insurance. You can outlive your 401k. The 401k only worked for asterisk high earners who maxed it out every year. Asterisk people who never panicked and sold. Asterisk people who never had emergencies. Asterisk people who got lucky with timing. For everyone else, it was a disaster. So let's bring this back to you. Personally, you're 67, you're still working, and this is why. Your father's retirement 1975, income, pension, $1,500, month $18, 0 per year Social Security, $600, month $7,200, year total, $2,100, month $25,200, year security. Guaranteed for life, adjusted for inflation, couldn't run out, widow got survivor benefits, lifestyle. Retired at 55, house paid off. Could afford golf, travel. Hobbies, died at 75 with money to spare your retirement 2025. Income, for 101k balance, $180. 0.4% withdrawal rate, $7,200. Year, $600. Month Social Security, $1. $800 per month, $21,600. Year total, $2,400. Month $28,800. Year seems similar, right? But wait, problems. 401k could run out in 15 to 20 years, no inflation adjustment on withdrawals. Healthcare costs $800 plus per month. House not fully paid off, 2008 crash cut your balance by 40%, can't afford to fully retire, reality. Working part-time at 67, worried about money constantly, can't afford the retirement. Your father enjoyed, angry, anxious, and feeling like you failed, but you didn't fail. You were set up to fail. The generational betrayal. Your father's generation, the greatest generation, got the promise fulfilled. They built post-war America, and they got their pension. Your generation, the baby boomers, were the first to get screwed. You were the experiment. The guinea pigs. The ones who discovered decades later that the 401k wasn't enough, and your kids, Gen X and millennials, have it even worse. No pensions at all, lower 401k matches, more job instability. Student loan debt, more expensive housing. Watching you work at 67 and thinking, that's my future too. The betrayal didn't start with them. It started with you. You were the first generation told, you don't need a pension, and now you're living the consequences. The emotional reality. If you're 65, 67, or 70 and still working, you have every right to be angry. You did everything they told you to do, went to work every day, saved in your 401k. Were responsible, didn't spend recklessly, followed the rules, and it still wasn't enough. That's not your fault. You were lied to. The system was changed beneath you. The promise was broken. Your father retired at 55 because his employer kept the promise. You're working at 67 because yours didn't. So if you lost, who won? Let's be clear about who benefited from destroying the pension system. The corporations. By eliminating pensions, American corporations saved trillions. Pension obligations disappeared from balance sheets. Profits skyrocketed. Stock prices soared. Executives got massive bonuses for cutting costs. From 1980 to 2020, corporate profits up 600%. CEO compensation up 940%. Worker wages up only 12%, and down when adjusted for inflation. They saved a fortune by breaking the promise, and they kept it. Wall Street made a killing, but before 401ks. Most Americans didn't have investment accounts. They had pensions managed by professionals. After 401ks, trillions flooded into mutual funds. Mutual fund fees now generate about $100 billion per year. Your 401k charges 0.5 to 2% annual fund fees, $50 to $200 admin fees, 1% advisory fees if you use a broker on a $200. Zero account, that's $2,000 for $1,000 per year in fees. Over 30 years, fees can eat 30 to 40% of your returns. Wall Street convinced America that everyone should invest in the stock market, and they've been collecting ever since. The wealthy benefited enormously because they could max out contributions. They had other assets, real estate, businesses, investments. They had advisors managing everything. They didn't panic sell during crashes. And they profited from a soaring stock market fueled by everyone else's 401ks. The 401k was designed for high earners, for people making $150,000 plus. It works for the middle class making $40,000, $70,000. It was never enough. Who lost? You did, the American worker. You lost guaranteed income. You lost retirement security. You lost the ability to retire at 55. You lost peace of mind. You lost the promise, and in return, you got market risk, investment responsibility, fee drag, stress, and a $64,000 median balance at age 65, the greatest wealth transfer in American history from workers to corporations and Wall Street. So where does this leave you? If you're 67 and still working, if you're worried about money, if retirement isn't what you thought it would be, now you know why. This wasn't your failure. It was a systemic betrayal. What you need to know now: 1. It's not your fault the system changed beneath you. You were told 401ks were the answer. No one warned you they weren't enough. You did your best with the information you had. 2. You're not alone. 40% of Americans 65 plus have no retirement savings. 55% are worried they'll outlive their money. Millions are working past retirement age because they have to. This is a national crisis, not individual failure. 3. Social Security is critical for most retirees. It's 50 to 70% of their income. Delay claiming until 70 if you can. It increases payments by 24%. Your father had a pension and Social Security. You have mostly just Social Security. Protect it. It's under political threat. 4. The pattern is repeating. Your children and grandchildren have it even worse. No pensions, higher costs, lower wages, the same broken 401k system. They need to know this history for your children and grandchildren. If you're younger and watching this, pay attention. Your parents and grandparents did everything right, and the system still failed them. Learn from this. The 401k is not enough. Max it out if you can, but don't rely on it alone. Invest in real estate. Build multiple income streams. Don't trust corporations to take care of you. Understand your parents' anger. It's justified.